I listened to the opposition leader's contribution to the budget debate yesterday, and I was of the impression that there's a general election next week. Because a lot of the things that were being touted and proposed, and even the tone in which they were being presented, would give the impression that there is going to be a referendum on the budget presentation by the government and the opposition in a week's time. But you have hit the nail on the head. Perhaps it was more a kind of appeal to a more localized base.
The PNP base, the hardcore PNP base.
Yes. So perhaps we should then not be too critical.
You're right, you're right, because when I listened to it, I tried to listen to most of it. I didn't hear every word, yes? And it struck me that the whole tone and tenor and posture was too combative.
Yeah.
Yeah, far too combative.
Extremely combative. You got the impression that there was something at stake.
Yes.
In a short period of time.
Yes.
As opposed to the idea that we, as a country, whether you are PNP, JLP, or no P, as a country, we're coming out of a historic hurricane. It would have devastated the productive sector in the West and our economy. We know what the realities are, and so there's no PNP or JLP gains to be made in the first year of an administration, but there can be national gains. Right?
When I listened, I kept on saying that he's not reading the room. He's not reading the room.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
There was an absence of a kind of broader awareness of the realities that we are operating in.
I think he had a good opportunity to reach out beyond his base to Jamaicans in the middle, who are looking at him and say, is this man up to the job? Is he up to the job? Is he ready for the job? To make a more convincing case to some of those people. Yeah,
I agree.
And,
in fact, I'll give you an example of how the combativeness was so rife, so strong that he himself even missed an opportunity to be a little bit more diplomatic. He made a point about our procurement challenges, a point that I think is impatient of debate. Everybody who works in the public sector, who engages the public, knows there's a procurement process. And he highlighted it and pointed to the need to address it so that capital expenditure can be increased and advanced to respond to militia. The Prime Minister was in agreement.
Yes.
And was actually knocking his table in support of the argument. And the opposition leader said, I don't want you knocking the table. I don't want to knock in on the table.
I don't want you clap.
I want you fix the problem.
Yes.
No.
I've watched several Jamaican political leaders over the decades, and some of our political leaders have the natural ability to read the room, to read the mood in the country, and to know when to lower the temperature, when to step it up, when to be reaching across the aisle. I'm afraid Mr. Golding does not have those political instincts. He really doesn't have those political instincts.
I think it is a big gap.
Yes.
Now let's go to some of the more substantive things. So one of the highlights of the opposition's presentation, to me, both the spokesman on finance and the leader of the opposition, is the improved systems of collection, improving the electronic use of collection at sale, right? At point of sale as opposed to post sale, right? Now, that sounds like a good idea, and there's precedence for it in other Caribbean and Latin American countries. What I would have hoped Mr. Golding would have done is expand on the idea and point out how much the capital investment perhaps would be in this new system in year one, because we can't implement the system in year one. The system would have to be built. It would have to be, you'd have to run a pilot on it, and then you'd have to absorb it into the operations of the tax administration. So clearly, this 8-point-something billion that they said we would benefit from would not be a year one benefit. That would probably be in year two. But in year one, we'd have to have some capital expenditure to get the system up and running.
Yes.
I would have hoped that the opposition would have pointed out, based on their research, that the government would have to spend X amount in year one on implementing this system to get it now mainstream into the tax admin operations, and show how the government could divert other funds from other places to cover the cost for this system, because this sounds like something that we should actually pursue, because a lot of the taxes that we should be collecting, we're not collecting for slippage of many, many different reasons why there's slippage, right?
Yes.
So if we can improve that, then it will help us in terms of gaining more revenue to do more of the things we wanted to do. So that was a missed opportunity, in my opinion, on the part of the opposition. The next thing that I think was a missed opportunity on the part of Mr. Golding is really in looking at the issue of the debt to GDP. We are currently at about 62% in terms of our debt to GDP.
Yes.
And our under the IMF agreement, we wanted to get to 60% by a certain time. Seeing that we are about 2% away from that at current.
Or a little higher now.
Or a little higher. It would have been good for Mr. Golding, given his financial background and mine, to delve a little into where we are relative to where we possibly want to be, and show how not increasing taxes at this time would not adversely affect our debt to GDP, and show other ways, not just the ways he has proposed, but show other ways in the financial markets that we could actually benefit from low interest loans that would raise the debt to about another 1 to 2%, but still achieve the very thing the government wants to achieve. And in a longitudinal way, we would be able to get back to our target by 2028, 2029. I don't think he did that. He spent most of his time talking about the PNP's manifesto idea. What we would do. And the manifesto was a pre-Melissa manifesto. So it can't be. Logically, you could not possibly be implementing your manifesto ideas in a post-Melissa environment. You would have had to curtail those ideas. You would have had to cut back on some of those things. And the priority right now is fiscal discipline, fiscal management, and bringing back the productive sector in the West so that the economy can start to bubble again. I think Mr. Golding missed the mark totally, and he was outshone by Julian Robinson, his spokesman on finance, in this round of the debate.
Yes. Julian struck a far more conciliatory, but at the same but you know, sir, I think Mr. Golding's presentation yesterday was an eye on coming events where he knows there's talk of challenging him, when that time is here. He knows that. And he was trying to batten down the hatches, He wanted to make sure the base is firmed up with him.
Listen, but you have to remember, though, that he still carries a large support within the party from us, the Rise United movement, unless the Rise United movement is no longer as united.
But some of those risers would have come to the realization that him cannot cross it. after September 3 that him can't cross it.
Yeah. Well, listen,
Politics is dynamic, sir.
I leave you with this. One of the things, Mr. Gold, is there's a toxic cocktail that is brewing with the thing in the Middle East, the situation with Melissa and the government's tax package, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that in 2012, 2013, we had additional taxes of $19.3 billion?
Mm-hmm.
2012, 2013.
Yes.
Right?
Under Phillips.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
In fact, in the following financial year, 2014, 2015, there was a tax on bank and financial transactions, withdrawals from ATM. That was when Mr. Phillips was kind of not sure if it was $10 on every $10, $100, or $1,000.
Yes.
And those two packages, the 19.3 billion in 2013, 2014, exceeds this 18 billion tax package, and we're dealing with a Category 5 hurricane.
I hear you, sir. I hear the point. Thank you very much. Good. Time for the break.